seventh generation of consoles saw a huge influx of co-op games. From Army of Two to Left 4 Dead to Gears of War, there was no shortage of ways to team up with a buddy for some co-op action. In 2007, developer IO Interactive and publisher Eidos threw their hat into the ring when they released Kane and Lynch Dead Men. The original Kane and Lynch is controversial, not because of its subject matter, but because of a review written by former GameSpot writer and Giant Bomb founder Jeff Gerstmann. Gerstmann gave the game a 6 and a little time later was fired by GameSpot. Gerstmann later revealed this was because Eidos was furious over his 6 out of 10 rating after spending a lot of money marketing the game on GameSpot's website. The Kane and Lynch series is something of a forgotten franchise. There were 2 games made, and after those 2 games, nothing. But over the years, it's garnered a cult following, especially the sequel Dog Days. I remember seeing ads for the second one in Game Informer, but because I couldn't play M-rated games at the time, I didn't play either one until years later, when I acquired both games on the cheap. Are the Kane and Lynch games any good, or are they dead men walking?
Dear Jenny, I've been trying to write you this letter for 14 years. Today is my last chance. This afternoon I will pay for my mistakes with my life. It's only fair.
Dead Men follows Kane, a former mercenary turned death row inmate. He sends to death, but him and another inmate named Lynch are busted out by the Seven, the criminal organization Kane once worked with. The Seven wants him to retrieve money Kane stole from them. If he doesn't, his wife and daughter die. Kane agrees and works with Lynch to reclaim the money.
Name's Lynch.
What's the phone for?
I'll be reporting back to them every morning and night.
Great. Fucking watchdog.
Imagine if a 17-year-old watched a bunch of crime and heist flicks, then decided to write his own. The result would look something like this game's story. It's got neat ideas and characters, but the premise is so generic and villains so one-note that you'll barely stay interested. We never learn much about the Seven or Kane's history with them. All we know is the Seven are bad and will do bad things to Kane's family if he doesn't cooperate. As for Kane and Lynch themselves, it's a mixed bag. Kane is a generic anti-hero. He's a complicated man with a complicated past, and no matter what he does, his past will catch up to him. He reminds me of Max Payne and John Marston, but whereas those characters had depth, Kane is as shallow as a kiddie pool. What makes Kane interesting is his fragile alliance with Lynch. Whereas Kane is calm and collected, if a bit troubled, Lynch is schizophrenic, borderline psychotic. He's a man who refuses to listen to orders and whose mental stability is always on the verge of collapsing. A good example is when Kane orders Lynch to watch the hostages while him and another crook go after the cash. We hear a lot of noise on Lynch's end and we're not sure what he's up to. By the time Kane gets topside, he discovers Lynch has killed the hostages. If you're playing co-op, the person playing as Lynch sees them as the cops, so he murders them. It's a clever moment that highlights Lynch's psychotic behavior. The problem is that's the only time the game tries anything clever. While I like Kane and Lynch's parasitic relationship, I don't like how one-dimensional they are. There are great character moments, but these moments are buried in a sea of mediocrity.
That was close. Can't fucking wait to get back at the Seven.
We're going for Retimoto first.
For what?
After what you did to Yoko, he'll be looking for Jenny with everything he's got.
You can't continue to blame me for that. It wasn't entirely my fault.
Just forget it, Lynch. Besides, I want my briefcase back.
Kane and Lynch Dead Men is a cover-based third-person shooter with squad management elements. If you're playing single player, you play as Kane while the AI controls Lynch, but in co-op, the second player is Lynch. Each level involves completing objectives and killing any enemies you encounter, be they cops, security guards, or Cuban soldiers. This is standard stuff, but what makes the gameplay different is its emphasis on co-op and squad management. Kane can order commands to Lynch and anyone else tagging along. You can order them to hide behind cover or attack an enemy, bark around too many orders, and they'll probably tell Kane, "Fuck you," which is hilarious. While it doesn't sound bad in concept, in execution it's shaky, particularly the combat. You have an assortment of guns at your disposal, most of which are as accurate as a water sprinkler. The bullet spread for assault rifles and SMGs is ridiculous, with most of your shots missing the target even if you're firing in short bursts. Kane and Lynch may be seasoned criminals, but they look like amateurs given how inaccurate the guns are. You can give guns to your partners, but I found this feature pointless not just because of the spotty shooting, but because it doesn't matter what weapons you give them. It would have been neat if characters were more proficient with certain guns, like if Kane was better with pistols and SMGs, while Lynch is better with shotguns and assault rifles.
We could have gone to the hotel first. 12 hours on a fucking plane, my neck is killing me.
Stop bitching. We still got a long night ahead of us.
Bitching? I'm not bitching. I just hate being ignored. Could you at least tell me why you think she can get the briefcase? Or you don't know?
Kane and Lynch's roaring rampage takes them all over the world. My favorite levels include Los Angeles, Tokyo, and the prison where Kane busts out his former partners in crime. What makes these stages great is their atmosphere. The opening heist is shades of Heat, with the action starting in the bank and spilling out into the streets of LA. The nightclub level in Tokyo sees the duo waltz through a crowded club teeming with NPCs. The low-key atmosphere and music give this part a calm before the storm feeling. After all hell breaks loose, you escape the club with the hostage in tow, shooting the guards and any civilians that unfortunately get in the way. Ditto for the prison level, which lets you use the scores of escaped convicts to slip past the security guards. What's not great is the last act set in Cuba. Your patience will be tested as you try and take out Cuban soldiers with finicky guns and an equally finicky cover system. Instead of pressing a button, your character automatically clings to walls and other objects. The problem is the cover system has a hard time determining whether the spot you're in is okay to hide behind. I often found myself scrunching up against any cover and hoping for the best. The Cuba section and accompanying jungle levels feel like they belong in a crappy military shooter and are a huge departure from the rest of the game. Whatever goodwill the game previously had goes out the window once you reach these stages.
Shit, and I have to keep this idiot alive.
If you're playing solo, you can order around your teammates. It's reminiscent of IO's previous effort Freedom Fighters, and ironically enough, there's a chapter called Freedom Fighters. Your allies can be useful, but it's more busy work than it should be. They have a hard time hitting targets and can get stuck on objects. If they're downed, you must revive them, but if they go down the middle of an intense firefight, you're screwed because trying to save them will get you repeatedly shot in the ass. I found it easier to get them to stay in one spot while I cleared out the opposition. The enemies you face fluctuate between smart and dumb. They'll gladly gun you down in seconds, but they'll also run the walls or stand around like nothing's happening. When you combine the inconsistent AI with the subpar shooting, you're left with gameplay that's dull at best and tedious at worst.
We're gonna be fine. We just need to get out to the car. We're almost there.
Kane and Lynch takes around 4 to 5 hours to beat. Afterwards, there's Fragile Alliance. In Fragile Alliance, you and a few others work together to complete a heist. The catch is, you or someone else can betray the group and make off with the money yourself. I couldn't test this mode, but a lot of people consider this to be the game's high point. The servers are still up, so if you can round up some friends, go for it.
Fuck, I hate heights. I can't believe we're going through with this.
Lynch, the briefcase is there. Redomoto won't even see us before he's dead.
If you say so.
Visually, the game looks fine for the time it was released. Some of the textures are flat, and I did encounter some technical issues like frame rate drops and wacky physics, but the environments are nice to look at and do a good job at conveying scale. This is best showcased during a mission where you infiltrate a skyscraper by rappelling down the side. The towering buildings looming in the distance really convey the feeling that one wrong step can send you tumbling down. Sound design is alright. The guns sound like pea shooters, but the voice acting is good, with the standouts being Brian Bloom and Jerian Marone as the titular Kane and Lynch. The music is also good, with a lot of moody themes that sell the game's criminal tone.
You just can't do anything right, can you?
It's not my fault!
What are you saying?
Things were cool, so you started your own agenda, making deals and all that.
I was negotiating, you twisted fuck.
Kane and Lynch Deadman is a great idea trapped in a middling shooter. I like the concept of playing as two criminals who are forced to work together. I like how one is a straight man with a troubled past, and the other is an unhinged psychopath. This game had potential, but it's squandered by a weak story and gameplay. The story is a cookie-cutter heist mission turned into a revenge tale featuring the most toxic romance in gaming history. The squad managing and shooting could be fun, if only your partners weren't so inept and the shooting wasn't so lousy. Kane and Lynch has a great foundation, but is built with such shoddy support that it feels like it'll give way at any moment. Its numerous flaws make it tough to recommend, but if you're curious enough, give it a go. Just be sure to bring a friend because if you go solo, you're going to have a bad time. Kane and Lynch Deadman gets a 4 out of 10. The first Kane and Lynch might not have been a critical darling, but it was a financial hit. So 3 years later came Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days. Dog Days is...
Let him go!
Dog Days is...
Lynch! Don't fucking kill!
Dog Days is trash. It's a dirty experience with unlikable characters trapped in a never-ending loop of death and despair. It's a game that ties you down, peels open your eyelids, and subjects you to its greasiness. It's a game that ends so abruptly, it's like IO themselves came to your house and slapped you. And the thing is, I kind of like it.
Kane, welcome to Shanghai. Long fucking flight, huh? It's good to see you. Been a while. How you been? Well, here, let me get that.
I'm fine. It's okay.
Lynch has moved to Shanghai to try and start over. He's no longer off his meds, but on them, and he has a girlfriend. He meets up with Kane, who's there for a gun smuggling deal, but before that, Lynch asks him to tag along while he takes care of some personal business. Things go south, and they go on the run.
You fucking care? Fucking naked! Fucking screaming, shooting, staring! Gotta keep going! Fuck!
The second game's story is a one-note plot, and from the moment Lynch kicks down the door, it doesn't stop. It's a relentless shooting gallery that takes him from the slums of Shanghai to the skyscrapers that loom over the city. Beneath the endless gunfire and profanities lies a tale of a man trying to find peace, only to realize peace is temporary. When we're first reintroduced to Lynch, he seems to have abandoned his psychotic ways. He's much more collected than he was during the entire runtime of Deadman. It isn't long after the bullets fly that the cracks resurface as Lynch's life crumbles around him, and he has no choice but to get out of town. Kane becomes his voice of reason as things get worse, and they realize that staying together is what has kept them alive for so long.
Lynch, I need you to calm down.
Oh, go fuck yourself, Kane! Fuck off home! That's what you want! They killed Sue!
I'm sorry, okay? We can get out of here.
They ain't gonna fucking get away with this.
Yes, they are. The dead don't care. Believe me. I know.
Though Kane and Lynch are better developed, the rest of the cast is an interchangeable roster of crooks that you'll barely remember. The most memorable one is Shang-Chi because he's built up as a powerful figure with unlimited access to anything and everything. By the time they reach Shang-Chi's complex, you're fighting Chinese soldiers armed with high-powered rifles and shotguns. Spoiler alert, but when Kane and Lynch confront Shang-Chi, Lynch offs him mid-conversation as he makes an offer to Kane. I like how it's kept ambiguous whether he really was going to let them live, or if it was just a ruse to have them captured and executed.
The more specific details. Once you get the cargo to Africa, you'll get paid.
The exports are dealt with?
They're so fucking happy. They're going blind.
The standout element of Dog Days isn't its narrative, but its atmosphere. The game is presented through the lens of a digital camera, and it goes all out with the aesthetic. Lens flares are constant, and a pixelated mosaic censors any disturbing imagery. The more damage you take, the more distorted the screen gets. Loud explosions corrupt the camera's microphone, and during the final confrontation, the dialogue is muffled by the wind blowing outside. The found footage aesthetic is what makes Dog Days so distinct. If the first game was a setup of heist flicks, the sequel is a setup of found footage and grindhouse. Who is this cameraman following them around? Who knows? But in a way, the player is the cameraman documenting Kane and Lynch's journey, braving the bullets to satisfy an unknown viewer's demand for bloodlust.
Shit! We were this fucking close!
We'll find another plane!
For all the good things it does, Dog Days fumbles its ending. After finding their way through hundreds if not thousands of armed men, they reach the airport and board a plane. The plane takes off, leaving the cameraman to die, and the game ends.
What the fuck?
Dog Days' ending feels like a joke with no punchline, and since it's been over a decade since the last game, We may never learn what happened to the dysfunctional duo.
Okay, we're here. Listen, this guy is small fish. Just need to talk, give him a piece of my mind, and we're gone, okay? But be careful. This is mob turf.
It's a shithole.
Gameplay has taken 2 steps forward, but 2 steps back. It fixes the problems that plagued the first one, but in doing so, creates new problems of its own. The sequel does away with the squad management system. If you're playing solo, your AI partner is invincible and can hold their own, so you no longer need to babysit him or revive him if he goes down. The shooting is leagues better. Guns are more accurate, and the inclusion of Call of Duty style hit markers means you'll know if your bullets are hitting something. Instead of grenades, you can pick up and throw explosives like propane canisters and shoot them mid-air. It's satisfying to take out a group of goons with a well-placed canister, though Kane and Lynch being able to shoot them regardless of where they're positioned is a bit game-breaking. The action is more fast-paced than it was in Dead Men. It pushes you to be aggressive and swap cover as much as you can. To compensate for this, enemies are more hostile, capable of flanking you and even feigning death if they're shot. While Kane and Lynch 2's gameplay is better, it falls short in spicing up the action. Say what you will about Dead Men, but at least that game tried to pepper in unique sequences. Dog Days is a non-stop bullet festival, and after a while it becomes stale. There's an intense set piece where Kane and Lynch shred apart a skyscraper with heavy machine guns, but that's it. The game is challenging, but there are several difficulty spikes where enemies can waste you in seconds. The cover system is better because you can press a button to take cover, but enemies can hit you even when you're protected, which I think is supposed to insinuate the character's psychological vulnerability, but I think it's just bad game design.
Ah, this is fucking stupid!
The campaign's biggest flaw is its short length. I beat the game in a little over 4 hours. Considering this was $60 when it was released, I can understand why people were pissed. I have nothing against short games. Short, long, in between, it's not about how long the game is, it's about how you use it. The problem is the game just ends. Without satisfying closure, it feels like the developer shortchanged you.
In arcade mode, you cooperate with a team of untrustworthy allies.
Fragile Alliance is back, along with new modes like Cops vs. Robbers and Arcade. Arcade is an offline version of Fragile Alliance that allows you to play the mode with bots. Having finally played Fragile Alliance, I can proudly say it's okay. Part of the fun is not knowing if someone on your team will try to screw you over. When all your partners are bots, it removes any fears or doubts. Arcade takes a cool mode and turns it into a run-of-the-mill heist shooter.
Okay, we're gonna be on a crowded street, we gotta act cool.
Think you can handle that?
Yeah, asshole.
Kane and Lynch 2's presentation is memorable. The handycam perspective creates an aesthetic that hasn't really been emulated since. It gives the action a raw, visceral feel and gives the sequel its own identity. With that said, it's a buggy experience. I mentioned the magic bullet glitch, but there's also other glitches like enemies getting stuck on walls, or this one time Lynch couldn't fire his guns and held them askew, which necessitated a checkpoint restart. Sound design is better. Guns are loud and powerful, and because it's shot through a handycam, audio is rough and compressed. Brian Bloom and Jerry Marone are once again great as Kane and Lynch, with Marone's performance as Lynch being a particular standout. Instead of going for a moody techno score like the last game, the sequel's music is more of an ambience, a very haunting and creepy ambience that reflects the character's hopelessness.
Well, I don't like it.
Don't worry, everything will work out fine. You'll be on that boat in a couple of days.
There's too many secrets, Lynch. Too much bullshit.
Yeah, welcome to Shanghai.
Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days is, at best, an average shooter. The gunplay is better, and the removal of the squad management means you spend less time babysitting and more time shooting. It's a hectic shooter that pushes you to keep moving and keep shooting. The problem is there's not much of it, and once the game starts, it's over. But its aesthetics and themes take this average shooter and turn it into a flawed masterpiece. It's trashy, it's shocking, and when filtered through a late 2000s camcorder, it becomes a found footage grindhouse flick. It's also a compelling character piece showing that no matter where Kane and Lynch go, death and destruction follows them. Both Kane and Lynch games go for peanuts, but if I had to pick one, I'd say skip Dead Men and play Dog Days. Dead Men is an exercise in wasted potential, while Dog Days is a remarkable experience worth checking out. even if only once. Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days gets a 6 out of 10.